Welcome back. Today we are breaking down the blueprint of the most influential man in modern media, Joe Rogan. While most people see the $250 million Spotify deals and the sold-out arenas, they miss the foundation that holds it all up. Under the title Joe Rogan 6 a.m. Habits Build a $200 million empire. The $250 million Spotify deal, the comedy Mothership, and his AustinPwerBas. We are going behind the curtain of the Rogan machine. It wasn't luck that built this empire. It was a relentless 6 a.m. obsession with physical and mental discipline. From the early days of a struggling podcast in a messy room to owning the biggest comedy club in the world and relocating a media hub to the heart of Texas, Joe Rogan has rewritten the rules of the game. Stay with us, because we are revealing the specific morning protocols that fuel his focus and the strategic power base he's building in Austin that is changing the face of the entertainment industry. Before we dive into the Rogan playbook, please subscribe and hit the like button. Let's look at how he built the Empire. Part 1. The 6 a.m. Blueprint. Forging the will in the darkness. To understand how Joe Rogan built a $200 million media empire, you have to stop looking at the shiny microphones in the high-tech Austin studio and start looking at what he does when the rest of the world is still asleep. The Rogan empire isn't a product of luck or viral moments. It is a result of a calculated, brutal, and relentless morning protocol that Joe calls forging the will. For Rogan, the battle for the day is won or lost at 6 a.m., long before the first guest sits down in the studio. He believes that if you can conquer your own mind and body in the early hours of the morning, the world cannot touch you for the rest of the day. This discipline is the bedrock of his focus, his endurance, and ultimately his massive financial success. Joe's 6 a.m. habits are designed around the concept of voluntary hardship. While most moguls are checking their emails or looking at the stock market, Rogan is stepping into a freezing ice bath or a scorching 200 degrees Fahrenheit sauna. This isn't just about health. It's a psychological strategic move. By subjecting himself to extreme discomfort immediately upon waking, he eliminates the inner bitch, that voice in the head that craves comfort and procrastination. He follows this with intense physical training, heavy kettlebell swings, kickboxing drills, or trail runs through the unforgiving Texas heat. This physical tax serves a business purpose. When Rogan sits down for a 4-hour podcast with a nuclear physicist, a world-class assassin, or a tech billionaire like Elon Musk, he possesses a level of mental clarity and warrior focus that his peers simply cannot match. He has built a brain that can endure long-form, complex conversations because he has trained his body to endure physical pain. This morning routine is also where his creative engine starts. Rogan often discusses how his best ideas for his stand-up comedy sets, his business ventures, and his podcast questions come during the flow state induced by high-intensity exercise. He isn't just working out. He is meditating in motion. By the time 9 a.m. rolls around, Joe has already accomplished more than most people do in a week. He enters the business world with a pre-won mindset. He doesn't react to the world. The world reacts to him. This 6 a.m. blueprint has created a man who is unbreakable in negotiations. Whether he is dealing with the high-stakes pressure of a $250 million Spotify contract or the logistical nightmare of building a world-class comedy club, he approaches every problem with the same calm, disciplined intensity he used to survive his morning workout. The hard habit is the secret to his longevity. In an industry where people burn out in months, Rogan has stayed at the top for over 2 decades. He has turned his personal discipline into a brand, proving to millions that wealth isn't just about what you have in the bank, but about the strength of the character you build in the darkness of the early morning. This is the foundation of the power base. Without the 6 a.m. habits, there is no $250 million deal. Without the discipline, there is no empire. Joe Rogan didn't just stumble into success. He hammered out of the cold morning air, 1 rep and 1 ice bath at a time. Part 2. the $250 million Spotify chess move, the architecture of independence. If the 6 a.m. habits are the foundation of Joe Rogan's empire, the Spotify deals represent the fortress built upon it. To understand the magnitude of Rogan's $250 million empire, you have to look at the transition from 2020 to the massive renewal in 2024. This wasn't just a payday. It was a revolutionary shift in how media power is wielded. In the old world, a star needed a network like NBC or HBO to reach the masses. Rogan flipped the script, building an audience of millions on his own terms before even sitting down at the negotiating table. By the time Spotify arrived with their initial $100 million offer in 2020, Rogan held all the cards. He didn't just sell a show, he licensed a movement. The hard truth that most creators miss is that Rogan's wealth comes from leverage. When he signed the first deal, he did the unthinkable. He moved his entire library behind a walled garden. Critics claimed he was selling out or that his influence would wane. They were wrong. Instead of disappearing, Rogan's brand became a must-have for platform. He proved that his audience would follow him anywhere, creating a gravitational pull that forced Spotify to reconsider the very nature of their business. As the 2024 renewal approached, the stakes were even higher. The new deal, estimated at a staggering $250 million, wasn't just about more money. It was about a new level of strategic freedom. In this new phase of his empire, Rogan negotiated a hybrid model that changed the game again. He regained the ability to distribute his content across multiple platforms, including YouTube, while maintaining his massive payday. This is legacy wealth in action. Rogan is an employee of Spotify. He is a sovereign partner. He kept his creative control of his staff and his no-script policy. This deal solidified his position as the most expensive and most influential voice in the history of audio media. He essentially used Spotify's capital to fund his own expansion, all while retaining the uncancelable status he built during those early 6 a.m. sessions. But the money is only half the story. The $250 million deal gave Rogan the war chest needed to execute his next major move, the physical takeover of a city. He didn't just put the money in a savings account. He began investing it into a physical power base in Austin, Texas. He realized that digital influence is powerful, but owning the land, the stage, and the town square is how you build a dynasty. This leads directly into his most ambitious project yet, a move that has the entire comedy world shaking in its boots. Part 3. The Comedy Mothership, monopolizing the cultural ecosystem. While the Spotify millions secured Joe Rogan's financial future, the Comedy Mothership secured his cultural legacy. In March 2023, Rogan did something that most people in show business thought was a massive risk. He bought an old historic theater on 6th Street in Austin, Texas, and transformed it into what is now considered the most advanced comedy club on the planet. This wasn't just a passion project or a place for him to tell jokes. It was a hard pivot into vertical integration. By owning the venue, Rogan stopped being a guest and so. The Mothership is the physical manifestation of Rogan's 6 a.m. discipline. Every detail, from the state-of-the-art acoustics to the anti-woke philosophy of total creative freedom, was designed to solve the problems he saw in the dying clubs of Los Angeles and New York. The club is notoriously difficult to get into, with tickets selling out in seconds and a line of hopefuls snaking around the block every single night. But the real genius isn't just the ticket sales, it's the power dynamics. By owning the most prestigious stage in the country, Rogan has become the kingmaker of comedy. If you perform at the Mothership, your career changes overnight. He has created a filtered ecosystem where he controls the talent, the narrative, and the culture. This move was a direct attack on the gatekeepers of Hollywood. For decades, if you wanted to be a successful comedian, you had to beg for a special on a major network or hope for a late-night talk show spot. Now, the path to the top goes through Austin. Rogan has used his $200 million empire to build a safe haven for artists who feel silenced by mainstream corporate culture. This has created an unprecedented level of brand loyalty. Comedians aren't just his friends. They are part of his militia of influence. They appear on his podcast, boosting his Spotify numbers, and then perform at his club, boosting his local revenue. It is a closed-loop system where every dollar spent and every laugh recorded feeds back into Rogan empire. The hard truth of the Mothership is that it made Rogan uncancelable. You cannot fire a man from his own building. You cannot deplatform someone who owns the stage, the microphones, and the land they sit on. This physical power base has turned Austin into a media mecca, forcing the rest of the entertainment world to fly to Texas to see what he's doing. Rogan has proven that in the 21st century, the greatest asset isn't just content, it's the community and the infrastructure that supports it. But as the club reached peak success, Rogan looked beyond the stage to the city itself, beginning the final phase of his plan, the total redefinition of the American Power Center. Part 4, the AustinPwerBas, redefining the global hub. When Joe Rogan packed his bags and left California in 2020, critics called it a tax dodge. But the $200 million reality is far more sophisticated. Rogan wasn't just moving for a lower tax bracket. He was building a geopolitical power base. By relocating his headquarters to Austin, Texas, Rogan effectively moved the center of gravity for the American media landscape. He didn't just move a podcast. He triggered a seismic shift that turned a Texas city into the new neutral ground for the world's most influential thinkers, billionaires, and disruptors. This is the AustinPwerBas, and it is the engine that keeps his empire growing at an exponential rate. The hard logic behind this move was simple. Los Angeles had become a closed loop of groupthink and corporate bureaucracy. Rogan realized that to maintain his $250 million Spotify edge, he needed an environment that mirrored his 6 a.m. discipline, rugged, independent, and fiercely competitive. Since his arrival, Austin has transformed into a high-tech Wild West. Because the Joe Rogan Experience, JRE, is the most powerful promotional tool on Earth, the world's elite now travel to him. Whether it's Elon Musk, top-tier neuroscientists, or sovereign wealth fund managers, they all have to pass through Rogan's Austin studio to reach the masses. This has created a gravity well effect, where Rogan is no longer chasing the news. He is the place where the news is made. This power base has turned Rogan into a cultural diplomat. He isn't just a comedian anymore. He is the town square for the digital age. By hosting titans of industry in his private Texas fortress, he has access to insider intelligence that most CEOs would kill for. He hears about the next breakthrough in AI, the next shift in the global economy, and the next medical revolution before they ever hit the mainstream. This information flow is what allows him to stay 5 moves ahead of his competitors. His empire isn't just built on audio. It's built on network effects. The more powerful people who visit his Austin base, the more powerful the Rogan brand becomes, creating a virtuous cycle of wealth and influence that is virtually impossible to break. Furthermore, Rogan's presence has fundamentally altered the local economy. He has become the unofficial governor of the new Austin. His endorsements can make a local restaurant a national landmark or turn a small tech startup into a unicorn overnight. He has used his fortune to invest in the infrastructure of the city, from high-level security to supporting local law enforcement and veteran-led businesses. He is building a citadel of independence, where his 6 a.m. habits have become the social standard for a new generation of Texas-based entrepreneurs. But as the AustinPwerBas reaches its zenith, the question remains, what is the end game for a man who is everything? In the final part, we reveal the legacy of the Rogan Empire and the one thing money can't buy. The final measure of Joe Rogan's $200 million empire isn't found in his bank account or the square footage of his Texas ranch. It is found in his absolute, uncompromising sovereignty. In a world where the most powerful CEOs and celebrities live in constant fear of cancellation or corporate backlash, Rogan has achieved the ultimate human luxury, the ability to say exactly what he thinks, whenever he wants, to the largest audience on the planet. This is a legacy of independence, and it is a final result of 20 years of 6 a.m. discipline. He didn't just build a business. He built a fortress of free speech that is now too big to fail. The hard truth about the Rogan endgame is that he has successfully decoupled himself from the traditional power structures of society. He doesn't need a movie studio to greenlight his projects. He owns a studio. He doesn't need a network to distribute his voice. He has a direct line, the 200 million people. He doesn't even need the approval of the Hollywood elite, because he has built a new elite in the heart of Texas. This is the blueprint for the 21st century mogul. Rogan has proven that if you own your audience and you own the dirt beneath your feet, your physical assets, you become uncancelable. His $250 million Spotify renewal was a final checkmate in this game. It proved that the corporate world had no choice but to accept him on his terms, rather than forcing him to conform to theirs. But perhaps the most profound part of his legacy is the generational shift he has inspired. Rogan has shown a new wave of creators that the 6 a.m. habit isn't just about health. It's about autonomy. He has become a mentor to millions of young men and women who are tired of the cubicle life and the permission-based economy. His legacy is a realization that a single individual, armed with nothing but microphone, a disciplined mind, and a relentless work ethic, can challenge the biggest media conglomerates in the world and win. He has turned the hard loss of his early struggling years into a hard win that has redefined the American dream for the digital age. Today, Joe Rogan sits at the center of a $200 million plus empire that shows no signs of slowing down. He continues to wake up at 6 a.m., continues to hit the ice bath, and continues to ask the questions that no one else is allowed to ask. He has built a life where his work and his passion are the same thing. He didn't just build a wealth machine. He built a life of total freedom. And in the end, that is the greatest empire of all. The $250 million deal was just a score on the scoreboard. The real victory was a journey of the man who refused to be quiet. Joe Rogan's story is a masterclass in the power of aggressive discipline. He showed us that you don't get the $250 million deal by being lucky. You get it by being undeniable. From the early morning workouts to the AustinPwerBas, he has set a new standard for what it means to be a modern mogul. Do you think Joe Rogan is the most influential person in media today? Does his 6 a.m. routine inspire you to change your own habits? Let us know in the comments below. We love breaking down the success secrets of the world's most powerful icons with you. If this deep dive into the Rogan empire gave you the strength to pursue your own goals, please subscribe and hit the like button. And if you want to support our mission to bring these stories of independence to light, a super thanks is a huge help.